Imagine a massive steam engine.
Okay.
It's colossal, it's loud, and it is carrying nearly half of all the passengers on the entire train.
That's a heavy load.
Right. But here is the kicker. This massive engine is only generating about 16% of the train's total power.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The rest of the power is coming from the sleek, quiet electric cars at the back that barely hold anyone.
That is a perfect analogy.
I thought so. And that, right there, is the fundamental paradox of the Indian economy.
It really is. It's the classic story of the belly of the nation versus the wallet of the nation.
The belly versus the wallet. I like that.
Yeah, it represents a structural mismatch that, defines almost every single economic challenge we face today.
We are talking, of course, about the agriculture sector.
The backbone.
Exactly. It employs roughly 42 to 43% of India's workforce, but contributes only about a sixth to the GDP.
It's the lifeline of the country, and yet, economically speaking, it is constantly fighting for relevance in those big growth charts.
And we aren't just talking about farming here, are we?
No, not at all. We were talking about food security. We're talking about the massive shifts from that old ship-to-mouth survival to becoming a global export powerhouse.
And the really complex policy frameworks trying to modernize this absolute behemoth of a sector?
Definitely.
Well, welcome to another deep dive, and this edition is very special.
It is.
It's a full summary for UPSC, focused by Simplified UPSC by PPP YouTube channel, complete with PYQ linkage.
That means we aren't just chatting today. We are connecting the dots specifically for your exam preparation.
We're taking the dry text and turning it into marks.
Exactly.
But before we get into the weeds, pun intended, I have a humble request for you listening.
Yes, please.
If you find value in this deep dive, please subscribe to the Simplified UPSC by PPP channel.
It helps so much.
It really does. And if you are capable and want to keep this content flowing, consider supporting us on Patreon.
A massive shout out to all our current supporters, by the way. Your support literally keeps the lights on and keeps the research teams digging into these massive topics.
Absolutely. Also, don't forget to like this video and share your valuable comments. We actually read them.
We do. And for the serious learners out there, head over to our public Telegram channel for free notes and practice PYQs.
And if you want the all-access pass, all the videos in this series at once, organized premium notes, detailed notes, extra PYQs, and model mains answers, you need to join the private Telegram library.
Just DM us on the public Telegram channel to get in. It's that simple.
Okay, business aside, let's unpack the mission for today's deep dive.
Let's do it.
We are basing this analysis primarily on Chapter 6 of Indian Economy by Sanjeev Verma.
A classic.
But we are heavily supplementing it with Chapters 10, 11, and 12 of Indian Economy by Vivek Singh.
Which is really the perfect combination.
Yeah.
Sanjeev Verma gives us the broad narrative arc, the overarching story of the sector.
Right.
And then Vivek Singh provides that granular data and the really technical policy details. You absolutely need both for a comprehensive mains answer.
So here's our roadmap for you today. We are going to dissect the structural paradox first.
Then we'll walk through the history, from the Green Revolution all the way to the Rainbow Revolution.
And we have a specific deep dive planned for the Pink Revolution.
Which is fascinating. Then we tackle the heavy stuff. Policy frameworks from the year 2000 to 2018.
The economics of farming, specifically MSP and APMC markets.
And finally, future-proofing strategies like food processing and sustainable farming.
Let's start with that structural paradox I mentioned in the hook. The numbers are just staggering.
They really are when you look at them historically.
Yeah, because in 1950-51, agriculture was over 50% of our GDP.
Half the economy.
Exactly. Now, looking at the recent data in our sources, it's down to around 16%.
Right.
But the workforce, it's still nearly half. Why hasn't the workforce moved?
Well, this is what economists call a structural transformation anomaly.
Anomaly. So it's not normal.
Not at all. If you look at the standard development model, specifically the Lewis model economies usually follow a very specific path.
Okay, what is that path?
You start agrarian, then you build factories. The industrial sector absorbs the surplus labor from the farms, wages go up, and finally, you move to services.
Right, the farm to factory to office pipeline. That's how the West did it. That's how China did it.
Exactly. But India essentially leapfrogged. We jumped from agriculture straight to services.
We skipped the middle step.
We skipped the heavy industrial manufacturing phase that countries like China or the Asian tigers relied on to absorb their massive labor forces.
So we have world-class IT parks and finance hubs.
But we don't have the massive factory floors to employ the millions leaving the villages.
Precisely. The service sector drives value. It creates a lot of wealth, which explains the high GDP share.
But it is not labor-intensive enough for the average worker.
Right. You can't take a farmer with basic education and just put him in a coding job at Infosys.
You really can't. And this leads directly to the phenomena of jobless growth.
Jobless growth, which begs the question I always ask when I see these charts. Why does this matter?
Yeah.
If the GDP is growing, why worry about where it comes from?
Because of inequality. If 43% of your people depend on a sector that's only generating 16% of the income, you have a recipe for massive wealth disparity. It explains the rural distress we see. The pie is getting bigger, sure, but the slice for nearly half the population is shrinking relative to the rest.
That puts it in perspective. It's not just an economic stat, it's a social crisis waiting to happen.
Exactly.
But Sanjeev Verma makes a very strong point in Chapter 6 that I think is crucial for our listeners. He argues that you cannot judge agriculture solely by its GDP contribution.
No, you cannot. And this is a very common trap in economic analysis.
Right.
First, there's the obvious factor. Food security. You can't eat software.
Very true.
Food security is absolutely non-negotiable for a sovereign nation. We learned that the hard way, which we'll discuss in a moment.
And beyond just feeding people, it feeds the industry, right?
Absolutely. Look at the industrial linkages.
Yeah.
Cotton textiles, jute, sugar, edible oils.
Huge industries.
Massive. And they rely entirely on agriculture for raw materials. If the farm fails, the factory halts. So agriculture is the base upon which a huge chunk of our manufacturing actually sits.
There's also a stat from the World Bank that stood out to me in the readings.
Oh, the poverty one.
Yes. It said that GDP growth originating in agriculture is at least twice as effective in reducing poverty as growth from other sectors.
That is a very powerful statistic to quote in an exam. You should definitely write that down if you were listening.
Twice as effective. Why is that?
It's because the growth is happening right where the poor are. It's direct. It's not trickle-down economics. It's ground-up economics.
Ground-up economics. I like that. And let's not forget the village factor.
India lives in its 600,000-plus villages. You cannot fix India socially or politically without fixing the agrarian economy.
Because if the village economy stagnates,
you get mass migration to cities, urban slums, and a whole host of other massive infrastructure problems. So fixing agriculture is basically fixing the root of the nation.
Okay, so we've established it's critical, but it wasn't always a given that India could feed itself.
Not at all.
We need to go back in time a bit to understand the trauma that birthed the Green Revolution, the era of ship to mouth.
It's hard for the current generation to imagine, really. But in the mid-1960s, India was living on the edge.
We had two severe droughts back to back, right?
Yes, in 1965 and 1966. We were incredibly heavily dependent on food imports, specifically wheat from the U.S. under the PL-480 program.
PL-480, it sounds like a license plate, but it was a lifeline with strings attached?
Very heavy strings. The U.S. essentially used food aid as a lever for foreign policy.
Wow.
At the time, India was critical of the Vietnam War, and the U.S. didn't like that. President Lyndon Johnson reportedly kept the food shipments on a short tether.
Meaning what exactly?
Meaning approving them month by month just to pressure India. It was profoundly humiliating for the Indian leadership.
Twisting the arm, quite literally. Change your policy or we stop the ships.
Exactly. And it taught Indira Gandhi a very harsh lesson. Political sovereignty is impossible without food sovereignty.
If you can't feed your people, you can't make your own decisions.
Precisely. That deep desperation is what truly fueled the Green Revolution.
And the stars of the show were Norman Borlaug globally, and in India, the legendary M.S. Swaminathan.
The father of the Green Revolution in India.
Yeah.
The solution they proposed was a very specific package. It wasn't just planting better seeds.
It was a triad, right?
Yes. High-yielding variety seeds, HYV, plus chemical fertilizers, plus assured irrigation. You absolutely needed all three simultaneously.
It was like putting the soil on steroids.
That's a good way to put it.
And it worked, didn't it?
It worked miraculously for production. We could break it down into phases for clarity.
Oh, let's do that.
Phase 1, from 1966 to 1972, was very targeted. It focused almost exclusively on wheat. And geographically, it was concentrated in Punjab, Haryana, and western Uttar Pradesh.
Why there? Why not Bihar or Bengal?
Water. Those regions had much better irrigation infrastructure. HYV seeds are thirsty. Without assured water, they just die.
Okay.
So the government bet on the strong. They put the resources where they knew they would get an immediate, massive yield.
Makes sense in a crisis. Then came Phase 2 in the 70s.
Right. Phase 2 spread to rice and moved into coastal areas like Andhra Pradesh.
And finally, Phase 3.
Phase 3 in the 80s moved east. The numbers in Vivek Singh's notes are impressive. Food grain production jumped from 74 million tons in 1966 to 105 million tons by 1971.
That is a massive jump in just 5 years. It made us self-sufficient. We stopped begging for food.
We did.
But, and in economics there is always a but, it came with severe costs. The critique of the Green Revolution is just as important as the success for your exams.
The environmental bill is finally coming due.
What are the mainline items on that bill?
First, water table depletion. Punjab is currently mining water from deep aquifers that took centuries to fill.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're pumping it out much faster than the rain can possibly replenish it. Second, soil degradation. The soil is practically addicted to urea now.
Addicted to urea.
The natural nutrient balance is completely destroyed.
And socially.
It created massive regional disparities.
Yeah.
Punjab and Haryana got very rich. Eastern India, Bihar, Bengal, Odisha, which actually has plenty of groundwater but lacked the infrastructure and the land consolidation, they missed the first bus.
So it created a divide between the grain surplus states and the rest of the country.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the need for diversification. The Green Revolution was very grain-centric, wheat and rice.
Very focused on calories.
Right. But our source material talks about a whole spectrum of revolutions. It's like a box of crayons, the Rainbow Revolution.
This is the critical shift from food security, which is just survival calories, to nutritional security.
Because we need proteins, vitamins, fats. You can't just survive on roti and rice forever.
Exactly. You need a balanced diet.
Let's run through the colors quickly so you listening can tag them mentally.
Okay.
White Revolution.
Milk. Operation Flood, led by Dr. Verghese Kurian. It turned India into the world's largest milk producer using a cooperative model, Amul being the prime example.
It really empowered millions of small farmers, especially women.
It was revolutionary for gender equity in rural areas.
How about the Blue Revolution?
Fisheries and aquaculture, both inland, like rivers and ponds and marines. It's becoming a huge export sector for us now.
Yellow.
Oilseeds, mustard, sunflower, soybean. We are desperately trying to reduce our massive import bill for edible oils.
And golden?
Horticulture, fruits, vegetables, and honey.
Isfer.
Eggs and poultry.
And?
Round.
Potato.
I just love that the potato gets its own revolution.
It's a staple.
It is, but there is another term mentioned in the text, the evergreen revolution. This was a term coined by Dr. Swaminathan later in his life, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And it's essentially a correction to his own earlier work.
Well, the Green Revolution was production at any cost. We were starving. We just needed food. The Evergreen Revolution is productivity in perpetuity without ecological harm.
Productivity in perpetuity. That is a beautiful phrase to use in an essay.
It means sustainable agriculture, using biotechnology, organic farming, and green methods so we don't destroy the very soil we depend on.
It's about thinking 50 years ahead, not just to the next harvest.
Exactly.
Now, I want to double-click on one specific color that our outline highlights as a deep dive focus.
Okay.
Honestly, it's one that people often overlook or maybe feel uncomfortable discussing, but the economics are undeniable. The Pink Revolution.
This is fascinating and so often misunderstood. The Pink Revolution refers to the modernization of the meat and poultry processing sector.
Processing is the key word there. We aren't just talking about raising chickens in the backyard.
No, we were talking about industrial scale, hygiene, cold chains, strict export standards. And the stats here are genuinely surprising.
Lay them on us.
The source text notes that in 2012, India actually became the largest exporter of buffalo meat in the entire world.
Wait, the largest? Beating out traditional giants like Brazil and Australia.
In terms of volume of buffalo meat, yes. We exported approximately 1.5 million metric tons. It is a massive foreign exchange earner.
Now, we do have to clarify the terminology here. We are talking about cara beef, right? Water buffalo meat.
Correct. Cow slaughter is banned in most Indian states due to religious sentiments, but buffalo slaughter is permitted.
Right.
Historically, the male buffalo was actually a huge financial burden on the dairy farmer because it doesn't give milk.
And tractors replaced them for plowing.
Exactly. The Pink Revolution turned that massive burden into a huge asset. It gave the farmer value for an animal that was previously just a cost to keep alive.
The UNFAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization, they actually laid out a roadmap for India to succeed here.
They did.
They gave 4 specific steps. If you are taking notes, these are absolute gold for a mains answer. What does it take to stay at number one?
Step 1 is setting up state-of-the-art meat processing plants. You simply can't export to Europe or the Middle East with 19th century slaughterhouses.
So it's a hygiene issue.
The global market is completely ruthless about safety. Step 2 is developing technologies to raise male buffalo calves specifically for meat.
Treating them as a primary product, not just a byproduct of dairy.
Exactly. Step 3 is contract farming for rearing animals to ensure a steady supply. An export processing plant needs consistency. It can't run on fluctuating daily mandi arrivals.
Step 4.
This is perhaps the most critical for international trade. Establishing disease-free zones.
Explain that. Why do we need specific zones?
Because of foot and mouth disease, or FMD. It's highly contagious.
Sure.
If FMD is detected in one part of India, say Gujarat, the entire country can get completely blacklisted by international importers.
Just a blanket ban.
Yes. But if you have globally certified disease-free zones, you can legally continue exporting from those specific zones, even if there's an outbreak somewhere else in the country.
Oh, I see. It's about risk mitigation and business continuity.
Exactly. It compartmentalizes the risk.
That links directly to a PYQ, doesn't it?
Yes. There was a UPSC mains question asking about the need to strengthen measures to promote the pink revolution for better nutrition and health.
It's not just about the export money. It's about providing dense protein to a domestic population that actually has very high levels of malnutrition.
Precisely. But there are still major challenges.
Huge ones. Hygiene standards are the big one domestically. The lack of cold chain infrastructure means massive wastage.
And we desperately need standardized national policies on quality and safety to remain competitive globally.
Speaking of policy measures, let's pivot to the frameworks that govern all of this. We have two major pillars detailed in our source text.
The 2000 policy and the 2018 policy.
Right. The new agricultural policy of 2000 and the agriculture export policy of 2018. Let's start with 2000.
This was really the first major comprehensive policy statement after the economic liberalization of 1991. The target was very ambitious, a growth rate in excess of 4% per annum in agriculture.
Did we consistently hit that 4%?
Rarely, but the intent was clearly laid out. The core features were introducing private sector participation through contract farming, offering price protection to farmers, and launching the National Agriculture Insurance Scheme.
But Sanjeev Verma's text critiques this policy as being largely indicative.
Yes. Indicative is polite bureaucratic code for we hope you do it, but we can't actually force you.
Because of the Constitution.
Exactly. Agriculture is a state list subject in the Indian Constitution. The center in New Delhi can make these grand, sweeping plans, but the individual state governments have to actually implement them.
So if a state government doesn't want to change its land laws or its APMC market laws, the central policy just stays on paper.
That federal structure explains so much of the inertia in Indian agriculture. The center has the vision and the funds, but the state has the legislative power over the land.
Now, let's jump forward to 2018, the agriculture export policy. Vivek Singh covers this well.
The objective here was very specific and quantified. Double agricultural exports from roughly $30 billion to $60 billion by 2022.
The vision was to make India a global power in agriculture.
There was a very crucial strategic shift here regarding trade bans. The text mentions moving away from switch-on, switch-off policies.
Switch on, switch off. What does that mean in practice?
Let's do a scenario. Imagine you are an importer sitting in Dubai. You buy onions from India regularly.
Okay, I'm the Dubai guy.
Suddenly, onion prices in Delhi shoot up because of a bad harvest in Maharashtra. The Indian government panics about domestic inflation and bans all onion exports overnight to calm the local market.
So I, the Dubai importer, am suddenly left completely without onions for my clients.
Exactly. You were stranded, and next time, you won't buy from India. You'll sign a contract with Pakistan or China because they are reliable.
Reliability is everything in supply chains.
Switch-on, switch-off trade policy destroys India's reputation as a reliable global supplier. The 2018 policy explicitly said we need to stop doing this knee-jerk banning if we want to be a serious global player.
That is such a critical point. If you want to play in the big leagues, you can't change the rules every time the domestic political wind blows.
Precisely. The 2018 policy also heavily focused on a cluster-based approach.
Right, clusters. Explain that concept.
It means identifying specific regional strengths. Say, recognizing that Nashik is world-class for grapes, Nagpur is perfect for oranges. The Konkan coast is ideal for Alfonso mangoes.
So you don't build generic infrastructure everywhere.
Exactly. You focus your specialized infrastructure, the cold storage, the pack houses, the quarantine testing facilities right there in those specific clusters.
You build an entire ecosystem around the crop. You link the farmers in that specific cluster directly to the exporters. It's highly targeted. Okay, let's get into the economics of the daily grind for an Indian farmer. Costs, prices, and markets. This is where Vivek Singh's chapters really shine with the technical details.
It's the core of the syllabus.
Let's talk about the acronym that literally dominates the news cycle every year, MSP, Minimum Support Price.
MSP is essentially a sovereign guarantee. The government promises to buy certain specified crops at a minimum price if the open market price falls below that level.
It's a safety net. It protects the farmer from a catastrophic price crash during a bumper harvest.
Oh, yes. But the big question is always, how is it calculated?
Right. We hear these terms debated endlessly on TV. A2, A2 plus FL, and C2. Let's break these formulas down so you listening never get confused by them again.
Think of it like a business balance sheet.
Okay.
Let's start with A2. A2 is your actual paid-out costs, cash out of pocket.
The receipts I can physically show you.
Exactly. Seeds, chemical fertilizers, hired casual labor, diesel fuel for the tractor, electricity bills for the pump, direct, tangible expenses.
Okay, A2 is the simple one, direct expenses. Then you have A2 plus FL. What is FL?
FL stands for family labor. In India, small farmers rarely hire a full external staff. The whole family works the field, the husband, wife, the grown kids.
And they don't get paid a weekly wage.
No, but their labor has immense economic value. So the A2 plus FL formula adds an imputed calculated value for all that unpaid family labor.
That seems very fair, because if they weren't farming their own land, they'd be earning daily wages working somewhere else.
Exactly. It accounts for their sweat equity. Then we have C2. This is the comprehensive cost.
The big one. What does C2 add?
It includes A2 plus FL plus two very big things. The rental value of the land, even if you own it, and the interest on your fixed capital assets, like tractors, pumps, and barns.
Wait, let me stop you there. Why include rent if I own the land? I'm not paying rent to any landlord.
It is about opportunity cost. If you didn't farm that land yourself, you could lease it out to someone else and make a guaranteed rental income. By choosing to farm it, you are actively foregoing that rent. That is a real economic cost in accounting terms.
So C2 is the true, fully loaded economic cost of farming.
Correct. And here is where the entire controversy lies. The Swaminathan Committee, remember M.S. Swaminathan from the Green Revolution?
Yes, the Evergreen Revolution guy.
His committee officially recommended that MSP should be legally set at C2 plus 50%.
Meaning covering the comprehensive cost and giving a 50% profit margin on top.
Yes. That gives the farmer a solid, dignified profit.
But what does the government actually usually give?
The government typically uses the formula of A2 plus FL plus 50%.
Which is significantly lower because it ignores land rent and capital interest.
Much lower. Farmers argue this A2 plus FL formula doesn't cover their true costs of living and reinvestment, hence the massive protests we see. They say, we're barely breaking even, let alone prospering.
And the other major criticism in Vivek Singh's text is regarding who actually gets this MSP.
Right. It's highly skewed. The Shantakumar Committee report noted that only a very small percentage of farmers actually benefit from MSP procurement.
It's mostly in the traditional wheat and rice belts, right? Punjab, Haryana, Western UP.
Yes. For farmer growing pulses in dryland Maharashtra or millet in rural Karnataka, MSP often exists only theoretically on a piece of paper.
Because there is no physical government procurement center near them to actually buy the crop.
Exactly. The government announces the price, but if nobody's there to buy it, the farmer still has to sell to the local trader at a loss.
So if MSP is the price side of the equation, let's talk about the market side. Where do they physically sell?
The APMC.
The Agricultural Produce Market Committee. These were originally set up decades ago with good intentions to protect farmers from severe exploitation by village moneylenders.
The idea was to bring everyone out into the open to a regulated mandi or market yard.
Yes. But over time, the protector basically became the predator.
That's a strong statement. How so?
The mandis essentially became closed cartels. You have the arhatayas, or the middlemen, the commission agent.
Right. They charge multiple levies, hidden commissions, and often collude with each other to keep the auction prices artificially low.
And the farmer has no choice but to accept it.
Plus, the APMC acts restrict the farmers geographically. In many states, you legally cannot sell your crop outside the designated mandi.
Wait, really? I can't just sell my tomatoes directly to a ketchup factory.
Historically, no. You couldn't sell directly to a food processing factory or a big supermarket chain without routing it through the Mandi and paying the Mandi tax.
So the farmer is trapped. He has to sell to the local cartel who is dictating the price.
Yes, it creates massive market fragmentation, and this severe bottleneck led to the idea of ENAM, the National Agriculture Market.
One nation, one market. That was the big slogan.
That's the vision. It's an electronic trading portal meant to link all these thousands of scattered mandis into one unified, transparent national market.
So a farmer in Madhya Pradesh could theoretically go online and sell to a buyer in Kerala who is offering a better price.
Theoretically, yes.
But what is the ground reality?
It is still struggling significantly. Interstate trade is very difficult because state tax regimes still differ. But the absolute biggest bottleneck is assaying.
Assaying, quality testing.
Yes. If I am a buyer sitting in Kerala, how do I know the wheat sitting in Madhya Pradesh is actually good quality? I can't touch it. I can't smell it.
Right.
I need a standardized, certified lab report. But that rapid testing infrastructure is completely missing in most rural mandis.
And without trust in the quality, digital trade just fails.
Exactly. You aren't going to wire money for 10 tons of wheat blindly based on a blurry photo.
There is a PYQ linkage right here, isn't there?
Yes, UPSC is asked specifically about the impediments of APMCs and the role of ENAM as a pan-India electronic trading portal. You absolutely need to know both the grand vision and the specific implementation gaps like internet connectivity, the assaying labs, and the physical logistics of moving the crop.
Moving on to our final section, future-proofing agriculture. We can't keep doing the same things and expecting different results. The outline points to what Sanjeev Verma calls the sunrise sector, food processing.
This is critical because it bridges the gap between the primary farmer and the urban consumer.
Give us an example.
Think about tomatoes. If a farmer sells raw tomatoes during a bumper harvest, he gets maybe 2 or 3 rupees per kilo. He's practically throwing them on the highway.
We see those pictures in the news all the time.
Right. But if he has access to a facility to sell tomato puree or ketchup, the shelf life extends to months and the value skyrockets.
And it solves the massive wastage problem.
India wastes a colossal amount of fruits and vegetables simply because of poor cold chains and lack of processing. Processing preserves that intrinsic value.
What is the government doing about this?
They have big umbrella schemes. SAMPADA is a major one, which covers both agro and marine processing, and the Mega Food Park scheme.
Mega food parks are based on a hub-and-spoke model, right?
Yes. Centralized processing hubs connected to primary collection centers in the villages.
And then there is Operation Greens.
That is directly modeled on Operation Flood from the dairy sector. It focuses specifically on TOP, tomato, onion, potato.
TOP, the holy trinity of Indian cooking.
Exactly. But they are notorious for wild price volatility.
The cobweb phenomena.
Precisely. Prices go high, so the next season all farmers overplant. Then prices crash because of oversupply. Farmers get burned and stop planting. Next season, severe shortage, so prices skyrocket again. It's a vicious cycle.
So how does Operation Greens break the cobweb?
It aims to stabilize this cycle through massive storage and processing capacity. If you have a glut of tomatoes, you don't throw them away. You turn them into puree. You store the puree. You release it into the market months later when fresh tomato prices spike. It stabilizes the market for both the farmer and the consumer.
Now let's talk sustainability again. We mentioned the evergreen revolution earlier. Organic farming is a huge part of that. And the state of Sikkim is the absolute poster child here.
The first fully organic state in the world. They completely banned synthetic chemical fertilizers and pesticides.
It's a huge success story for branding. Their produce commands a massive premium price globally.
It does. But organic certification in India is quite tricky.
How so?
There are 2 main types mentioned in Vivek Singh's text. NPOP, which is the National Program for Organic Production. This is third-party certification.
Meaning an external auditor comes and checks your soil.
Right. It's very rigorous, very expensive, and it's mainly required for exports to Europe or the U.S.
And the second one?
PGS India, Participatory Guarantee System. This is a peer review system for the domestic market.
Peer review, like farmers checking other farmers.
Exactly. A local group of farmers mutually guarantee that they are all following organic practices. It's much cheaper and easier for small marginal farmers to afford.
Then there is a concept that sounds almost magical in the reading. ZBNF, Zero Budget Natural Farming.
Yes, this was popularized by Subhash Palekar, The core idea is to break the vicious debt cycle that leads to farmer suicides.
Why is the farmer in debt in the first place?
Because the Green Revolution model requires buying very expensive seeds, chemical fertilizers, and pesticides on credit every single season. If the rain fails, the crop fails, but the bank loan still remains.
So zero budget means zero cost of inputs. Is that even possible?
Ideally, yes. You don't buy anything from a factory. You use nature's inputs that you already have. Cow dung, cow urine, local jaggery, pulse flour.
To do what?
You make your own natural concoctions. Things like Jivamrita and Bijamrita. You apply them to stimulate the natural soil microbes and earthworms. You don't pay Monsanto or the big chemical companies a single rupee.
That sounds incredible. Does it work?
It's highly controversial in mainstream scientific circles regarding actual crop yield. Scientists argue you can't feed 1 billion people this way. But it is definitely gaining traction politically as a way to save small farmers from total bankruptcy.
Finally, we absolutely cannot talk about the future without addressing the land itself. Land reforms. The elephant in the room is land fragmentation.
It's the biggest structural hurdle. The average land holding size in India is shrinking every generation. It's down to about 1.08 hectares.
That's tiny.
The vast majority of Indian farmers are classified as marginal, owning less than 1 hectare. You simply can't use a big modern combine harvester or lay down drip irrigation efficiently on a 1-hectare plot. The economies of scale just aren't there. It's not economically viable.
So what's the solution? We can't just take land away.
No. The solutions are cooperative farming, which is hard to organize, or land leasing. The Anit Ayog has proposed a model land leasing act.
Why do we need a new act? Don't people lease land already?
They do, but currently, landlords who have moved to the city are terrified to formally lease out their village land. They fear the tenant farmer will eventually claim permanent ownership under old socialist-era tenancy laws.
So they do informal verbal leases, just a handshake.
Which is terrible for the tenant farmer. With no written legal lease, the tenant cannot get a formal bank loan. They can't get government crop insurance. They can't even get disaster relief if a flood ruins the crop.
Because officially, they aren't the farmer of record.
Exactly. The Model Act aims to legalize and formalize leasing. It formally guarantees the absentee landlord's title while giving the tenant a legal document so they can finally access institutional credit and insurance. It formalizes the relationship and unlocks the dormant land market.
It seems like so many of these solutions, ENAM, formal land leasing, organic certification, they are all about formalizing the informal.
That is the overarching story of the Indian economy in the 21st century, bringing the massive shadow informal economy into the sunlight of the formal regulatory system.
Well, we have covered a massive amount of ground today. From the original GDP paradox to the green and pink revolutions, the complex policy shifts, the heavy math of MSP formulas, and the future of food processing and sustainability.
It really is a journey from a desperate food deficit nation to a net exporter. But the journey isn't over. The critical shift now has to be from mere food security, which is just quantity of grain, to true nutritional security and income security for the grower.
That phrase, doubling farmers' income, is the new policy mantra.
And that won't happen just by growing more wheat using more urea. It will only happen through crop diversification, value addition, food processing, and treating agriculture as a modern enterprise, not just a subsistence livelihood. It's about fundamentally making the Indian farmer an entrepreneur.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Whether you are studying for the UPSC mains or just trying to understand the Indian economy, realize that agriculture isn't the past. It is the absolute foundation of our future.
If we get agriculture right, if we fix the market linkages, the ecological sustainability and the processing, the rest of the entire economy stabilizes.
And if we don't, the structural paradox we started with, the massive belly of the nation versus the wallet, will continue to pull the economy in two very different, very dangerous directions.
All said.
Here is a final provocative thought for you to chew on before we go. We talked about zero-budget natural farming, which is very low-tech, relying on cow dung and jaggery.
Right.
But we also constantly hear about precision farming using artificial intelligence, soil sensors, and agricultural drones. These seem like polar opposites.
They do.
But could the future of Indian agriculture actually be a hybrid, using high-tech tools and satellite imagery to precisely monitor organic, natural inputs? Can we combine the ancient wisdom of the earth with the modern intelligence of the cloud? Something to mull over.
That is indeed the next great frontier for agritech.
Well, that's a wrap for this deep dive into the agriculture sector. We really hope this helps you connect the dots between your dry textbooks and the real world.
Before you go, just a quick reminder.
Yes, please subscribe to Simplified UPSC by PPP. It is the best way to catch our next deep dive as soon as it drops. And if you can, support us on Patreon. It makes a huge difference in the quality we can provide.
And head over to the Telegram channels.
Yeah.
The public channel is there for the free notes and PYQs. And the private library is for all the premium organized content, including those model mains answers we alluded to earlier.
Just DM us on the public channel to join the premium library. Thanks for listening, and thanks for supporting the channel.
Keep learning.
See you in the next deep dive, where we unravel the next layer of the Indian economy. Bye for now.